My name is Lena Walker, and I can still remember the exact moment my world shifted. The Thanksgiving dinner that changed everything. It should have been a warm, peaceful family gathering. Roasted turkey, candles, laughter echoing through my parents' big old dining room. But instead, it became the night I finally stopped letting people walk all over me. There were about 20 of us at the table, cousins, aunts, uncles, when my older sister Vanessa decided to humiliate me. "Can you please stop begging people for money, Lena?" she said loudly, her voice dripping with mockery. "It's embarrassing." The entire room went dead silent. Forks hovered midair. My father shifted awkwardly. My mother stared down at her plate. And Vanessa just smiled, smug, satisfied, cutting into her turkey as if she hadn't just burned me alive in front of everyone. I didn't argue, didn't cry. I just smiled faintly, slipped my phone out under the table, opened my banking app, and canceled 6 automatic payments totaling $350. 5 seconds later, Vanessa's phone began to buzz, once, twice, then nonstop. The sound grew louder, vibrating against the wooden table until the glasses trembled. At first, she ignored it, pretending nothing was wrong. But then the notifications came faster, a relentless chorus of digital panic. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I took a calm sip of water, my heart steady. No rage, no guilt, just release. 2 years of silent resentment had just dissolved with 6 quick taps. Vanessa finally picked up her phone, and I watched the color drain from her face. Her fake confidence cracked instantly as she read the flood of alerts. Payment declined. Payment failed. Account past due. Every debt I'd been quietly paying for her, rent, car, credit cards, insurance, had just bounced back in real time. Her eyes darted toward me, panic flickering. I didn't look away. See, Vanessa had always been the golden child, charming, reckless, adored. I was the responsible one, the good daughter expected to clean up her messes. And for years, I did exactly that. It all started 2 years ago. It was a freezing November night, close to midnight, when my phone rang. Seeing Vanessa's name flash on the screen sent a wave of dread through me. She never called that late unless it was bad. "Lena," she said between sobs, "I'm in so much trouble. Please don't tell Mom and Dad." Through hiccuped tears, she explained everything. Over $32,000 in credit card debt, a car on the verge of repossession, rent overdue by a month, and an eviction notice taped to her door. Worse yet, her ex-husband was using her financial mess against her in their custody battle for Hannah, her 7-year-old daughter. Hannah, that sweet little girl with curly brown hair and a dimpled smile, adored me. She'd draw me pictures of dolphins and ask if I could come to every one of her school plays. "I can't lose her, Lena," Vanessa cried. "Please, just for a little while, 6 months. I swear I'll pay you back when I get my promotion." 6 months. That was all she said she needed. The total came to about $3,100 a month, her rent, car payment, credit cards, phone bill, insurance, and storage unit. It would stretch me thin, but I told myself I could do it. For Hannah. 6 months turned into 12, then 18, then 2 full years. I paid more than $75,000 of Vanessa's bills. She never said thank you, never mentioned paying me back. Instead, her Instagram was filled with brunches, spa selfies, designer shoes, and girls' trips to Miami. When I finally brought it up, gently, suggesting she could start taking over 1 or 2 bills, she snapped, "I have a child, Lena. Not all of us can afford to be selfish." Selfish. That word stuck in my head like a splinter. Meanwhile, I was postponing my own life. My savings were gone. My fiancé Ethan and I had delayed our wedding twice because I couldn't contribute financially. I was working overtime to survive, while Vanessa lived like nothing was wrong. And now, at Thanksgiving, she had the nerve to call me a beggar. When she left the table to take a call after those payment failures, I knew exactly who was on the other end. Her landlord, her creditors, maybe even her bank. When she came back, her face was pale, trembling. She didn't speak for the rest of dinner, just glared at me with that hateful, cornered look. Later, while everyone gathered in the living room for dessert, she cornered me in the kitchen. "What the hell did you do?" she hissed. "I stopped paying your bills," I said quietly. "You can't do that. I have rent. I have a car." "So do I said. "And I've been paying yours for 2 years. Her nostrils flared. "If you don't turn those payments back on right now, you'll regret it." I picked up my coat. "Happy Thanksgiving, Vanessa." I left without another word, For the first time in years, I felt free. But as I drove home through the cold night, her threat echoed in my mind. You'll regret it, and she meant it. The next few days were eerily quiet. Then Monday morning came, and my phone started exploding. Missed calls, 70 messages, all from family. I opened one from my mom. How could you do this to your sister? You should be ashamed. Then from my dad. We didn't raise you to be this selfish. Vanessa told us everything. Aunt Lisa wrote, Vanessa's struggling and you just cut her off? You're heartless. Every message was the same. Anger, disappointment, disgust. Vanessa had gotten to them first. She told everyone I'd been borrowing money from her for years and refusing to pay it back. I called Mom immediately. Mom, it's not true. I've been paying her bills. I can prove it. She showed us the papers, Lena. Mom interrupted. Loan documents. You signed them. I never signed anything. Those are forged. Oh, don't start with that. Vanessa wouldn't lie about this. She's lying, Mom. I have bank statements. Enough, she said coldly. Until you make this right, don't contact me again. She hung up. That was the moment I realized how far Vanessa would go to destroy me, and that was just the beginning. The silence after my mother hung up was deafening. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, rereading the messages that painted me as a monster. My entire family, every person I grew up with, every holiday dinner companion, had turned on me overnight. Vanessa had always been manipulative, but this was new. This was nuclear. By the time I got to work that morning, I'd convinced myself it would blow over. Maybe Mom would calm down. Maybe someone would check the facts. I was halfway through my first coffee when my boss, Melissa, appeared at my cubicle. Lena, can I see you in my office for a moment? Her tone was off, tight, rehearsed. Inside, she gestured for me to close the door. My stomach sank. I'm sorry about this, she began, folding her hands. We received an anonymous email this morning. It contained allegations. What kind of allegations? That you've been embezzling funds from client accounts. The room swayed for a moment. What? That's absurd. Melissa's voice softened, but her eyes were careful. The email included screenshots of supposed bank transfers and falsified spreadsheets. They look convincing. We have to take it seriously, Lena. You'll be placed on administrative leave while we investigate. I could barely breathe. I would never... Melissa, someone's setting me up. My sister, she sighed. I understand this must be shocking, but HR will contact you by the end of the day. Please hand over your access badge and company laptop before you leave. That was it. No chance to explain, no benefit of the doubt. I walked past my coworkers, clutching my box of belongings, their eyes following me like I was contagious. Outside, in the parking lot, the cold air hit me hard. I sat in my car and just stared at the steering wheel. Everything I'd worked for, the job I'd built over 7 years, was gone. When I finally checked my phone, there were more messages waiting, this time from numbers I didn't recognize. Thief. People like you should be in jail. How could you steal from your own family? Vanessa's work, obviously. That night, as I sat in my apartment trying to eat something, anything, my phone rang again. Unknown number, Ms. Walker, a man's voice said. This is Detective Henry Morrison with the Financial Crimes Unit. I need to speak with you regarding a police report filed by your sister, Vanessa Moore. My heart froze. What report? She's alleging you stole $32,000 from her over the past 2 years. She's provided documentation, loan agreements with your signature. We'd like you to come in tomorrow for questioning. I almost dropped the phone. Those documents are fake. She forged my signature. Then you'll have the opportunity to explain that, the detective said evenly. Please bring any relevant financial records or communication between you and your sister. After he hung up, I sat in the dark for nearly an hour, numb. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Ethan, my fiancé. Did you get arrested or something? I blinked at the message, confused. Arrested? No, I typed back quickly. Why would you think that? Someone messaged me anonymously, said you're being investigated for theft. Is it true? It's Vanessa. She's lying, Ethan. She's framing me because I stopped paying her bills. There was a long pause. Then, Lena, this is a lot. I just need some time to process everything. Time to process what? I replied, panic rising. You know me. You know I'd never do something like that. I need space. Let's talk in a few days. Then silence. That night, I cried for the first time in months. Not the kind of crying that releases pain, but the kind that breaks something inside you. The next morning, I walked into the precinct clutching a folder of bank statements, payment histories, and emails. Detective Morrison was polite but detached. He flipped through my documents, occasionally raising an eyebrow. "These payments," he said, tapping the list. "You were covering your sister's bills for over 2 years?" "Yes." "And you never had a written agreement?" "No, it was family. I trusted her." He nodded slowly. "That makes it complicated. Without a formal contract, her documents, if proven legitimate, paint a different picture." "They're not legitimate," I protested. "She forged them. Please, look closely. The signatures don't match." He sighed. "That'll be for a forensic expert to determine. For now, the DA is reviewing the case. I suggest you hire an attorney." That evening, I called the best defense lawyer I could afford, or thought I could afford. Charlotte Murphy was in her 50s, sharp, confident, and terrifyingly efficient. She examined the forged documents Vanessa had submitted. "Whoever did this knows legal formatting," she said, flipping through the pages. "The templates are accurate, the stamps look real. Your sister couldn't have done this alone." "Her ex-husband, Greg. He's a paralegal," I said quietly. Charlotte's eyes lit up. "Then that's our connection. She likely had his help." "That's conspiracy to commit fraud if we can prove it." I nodded, trying to breathe. "How much will it cost to fight this?" She looked me straight in the eye. "Between expert witnesses, legal fees, and documentation, at least $20,000. I almost laughed. "I don't even have $2,000. "Then we'll need to get creative," she said simply. A week later, my company completed their investigation. I was cleared of any wrongdoing. No missing funds, no irregularities. But when Melissa called me, her voice was detached. "We're happy to inform you the investigation found no evidence against you. However, we believe it's best if we part ways. We can offer 6 weeks severance if you resign voluntarily." They were pushing me out. I'd been vindicated, and still I was the problem. I signed the resignation papers that afternoon. By the end of the month, I was unemployed. I applied for dozens of jobs: financial analyst, accountant, assistant, anything. A few interviews went well, but every offer vanished after the background check. Finally, one recruiter called me privately. "Lena," she said hesitantly, "off the record, someone's been spreading rumors about you. Fake LinkedIn accounts using your name. Fake reviews saying you're unethical, unstable. I think a few employers got scared off." My stomach turned cold. "Can you tell me who?" "I can't. But I'd guess it's someone personal. Someone who knows a lot about you." "Vanessa." It had to be Vanessa. That night, I searched my name online, and there it was. Fake Facebook accounts, fake reviews. Even a blog post titled, "Beware of Lena Walker, the financial analyst who stole from her own family." My own photo, my hometown, my workplace, all plastered online like a warning label. I tried to report it, but the platforms took weeks to respond. For every fake account I got removed, 2 more popped up. It was like fighting smoke. Without income, I burned through my savings in less than a month. Rent went unpaid, bills stacked up. One afternoon, I heard a tow truck outside. I rushed to the window just in time to see them hooking up my car. I'd missed 3 payments. The man gave me a pitying look as he drove off. That night, I found myself sitting on my apartment floor, surrounded by unopened envelopes, collection letters, eviction notices, legal warnings. The same desperation I'd heard in Vanessa's voice 2 years ago was now echoing in mine. A week later, Ethan came by to collect his things. He looked uncomfortable, like someone visiting a stranger. "I can't do this anymore, Lena," he said quietly. "The police, your sister, the job thing, it's too much." "Ethan, I didn't do anything wrong, you know that." He hesitated, then sighed. "She called me." My heart stopped. "Vanessa?" "She said she's worried about you, that you've been having breakdowns, that you might hurt yourself or others." My hands shook. "You believe her?" He looked away. "I don't know what to believe anymore." He set the engagement ring on the coffee table and walked out. Just like that, the last piece of my old life disappeared. 2 days later, my mother called, just to tell me I wasn't welcome at Christmas. "The family needs peace," she said curtly. "You've caused enough drama. Vanessa's been through enough already." And when my grandmother passed away 3 weeks later, no one told me until I read it in the obituary. That was the final blow. By January, I was officially homeless. The only place I could afford was a rundown motel off Route 9, $43 a night. The wallpaper was peeling, the sink leaked constantly, and the mattress smelled faintly of mildew. But at least it had a lock on the door. I sold everything I could, my furniture, laptop, even my jewelry, just to keep the lights on. Every time I thought I'd reached rock bottom, Vanessa found a way to dig me deeper. I had nothing left, no family, no job, no fiancé. And yet, beneath all that despair, a quiet flame began to spark. It started small, a whisper in the back of my mind. "She took everything from you, so take something back." And for the first time in months, I smiled. That night in the motel, I stared at the cracked ceiling, while the sound of dripping water echoed in the background. It wasn't the life I'd imagined for myself, not even close. I used to believe that if you worked hard, stayed honest, and helped your family, life would reward you in the end. But now I knew better. People like Vanessa didn't just take advantage of kindness. They weaponized it. I had nothing left to lose. And that, I realized, made me dangerous. The plan. The next morning, I packed the few things I had left, a half-charged laptop, my old phone, and a folder of every receipt, statement, and message I'd ever saved. Vanessa had built her lies carefully, but I knew something she didn't. In finance, every lie leaves a paper trail. I couldn't afford another lawyer, so I started doing what I did best, investigating. I spent hours at the public library using their computers, combing through records. I looked up court filings, property records, her ex-husband Greg's employment information, even the public access system for custody cases. And then, something clicked. I found a filing date on one of Vanessa's supposed loan agreements that predated the bank account I used to help her. Meaning, the document couldn't have existed when she claimed I'd signed it. The dates didn't align. That alone was enough to prove the forgery. But I needed more. So I reached out to the one person who might still believe me. Hannah's teacher, Mrs. Lyons. She remembered me instantly. "Oh, Lena, I'm so sorry about everything. Hannah's talked about you. She misses you." My heart ached. "Can I ask, how's Vanessa been?" There was a long pause. "Well, she told the school she's between jobs, but she just leased a new Lexus last month. She's been posting a lot about her win in court." Win. That word stung. I knew what it meant. She'd won partial custody by painting herself as the struggling single mother wronged by her evil sister. That's when I decided I wouldn't just clear my name. I'd make sure Vanessa never hurt anyone again. The discovery. I spent the next 3 weeks pretending to be someone I wasn't. Polite, calm, and desperate for help. I called Greg Richards' law firm, pretending to be a client researching paralegal services. It took me 3 tries, but I got someone on the phone who confirmed he'd recently handled document preparation for a family financial dispute. Bingo. I checked the firm's website and noticed something small but crucial. The metadata on one of their form templates matched the formatting of the forged loan contracts Vanessa had used. I saved screenshots and filed them in my folder. Next, I dug through my old bank records. For 2 years, every payment I'd made for Vanessa had automatic transfer tags, all traceable, all legitimate. But here was the twist. One of her credit cards I'd been paying off was also used by Greg. Purchases in his city, not hers. That meant he'd benefited directly from the money I sent. Fraud, conspiracy, misuse of funds. Piece by piece, her web was unraveling. The execution. I walked into the courthouse on a gray Monday morning wearing the only suit I hadn't sold. My hands were trembling, but my eyes were clear. I filed a civil counterclaim. Fraud, defamation, and malicious prosecution. I included every shred of proof I'd gathered. The clerk looked impressed when I handed her the thick file. "Do you have an attorney?" she asked. "No," I said, steadying my voice. "Just the truth." The case was accepted, and a court date was set for 6 weeks later. That night, I sent one final email to Detective Morrison. Subject: proof of forgery in the Moore case. I attached every piece of evidence from the mismatched document dates to the digital signature inconsistencies, to screenshots of Greg's firm template. Within hours, he replied. Received. Will review immediately. If what you're saying checks out, this changes everything. And just like that, for the first time in months, I felt hope flicker back to life. The collapse. 2 weeks later, I got a call. Ms. Walker, Detective Morrison said, I wanted you to hear it from me first. Your sister and her ex-husband are under active investigation. We verified the documents were falsified. The timestamp metadata confirms your theory. The DA will likely drop your case entirely. I nearly collapsed with relief. Thank you, I whispered. He hesitated. There's more. We subpoenaed Greg's bank records. Turns out he and Vanessa were funneling money from one of her employer's accounts into her personal one. They used your name to disguise it as reimbursement transfers. That's how she built her story about you. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles whitened. So she really stole money and blamed me for it. Exactly. She's going to face serious charges, Lena, possibly prison. For the first time, I slept peacefully that night. The trial. The day of the hearing, I walked into court with my head high. Vanessa was already seated at the plaintiff's table, looking immaculate. Perfect hair, perfect outfit, perfect lie. When she saw me, her smile faltered. Across the aisle, Greg sat rigidly, avoiding my gaze. The judge entered and the proceedings began. Vanessa's lawyer recited her rehearsed narrative. I'd borrowed money, refused to pay, lashed out. The same story she'd spun for months. Then it was my turn. I stood, holding the stack of documents I'd organized to perfection. Your Honor, I said clearly, every piece of evidence presented by my sister was forged. Her attorney scoffed. Do you have proof of that claim? Yes, I said calmly. Multiple proofs. I walked the judge through everything. The timeline inconsistencies, the metadata, the verified records from Greg's firm, even the cross-reference purchases showing Greg had used funds from Vanessa's credit accounts. When I finished, you could hear a pin drop. The judge turned toward Vanessa, whose face had gone ghostly pale. Ms. Moore, would you care to explain these discrepancies? She stammered something incoherent, glancing at Greg, who looked ready to faint. Moments later, the judge adjourned for verification. 2 days after, the official ruling came down. The case against me was dismissed, and Vanessa and Greg were charged with fraud and defamation. I walked out of that courthouse into the sunlight, the world feeling lighter than it had in years. But I wasn't done. The revenge clearing. My name wasn't enough. I wanted to make sure Vanessa could never do this again. Over the following months, the investigation deepened. The news broke publicly when the DA's office released a statement. Local woman and accomplice charged with financial fraud and document forgery. The irony was almost poetic. The same social media platforms she'd weaponized against me now spread her mugshot like wildfire. I didn't post anything myself. I didn't need to. The truth was louder than anything I could have said. Her employer fired her. Greg lost his paralegal license. Their custody agreement was reopened. And my parents? They called me. My mother's voice was small, trembling. Lena, we didn't know. We're so sorry. I listened quietly. For months, I dreamed of hearing those words. But when they finally came, they didn't feel satisfying, just sad. You believed her without ever asking for my side, I said softly. That's not something I can forget. We were wrong, she said. Please come home. Let's fix this. I don't think home exists anymore, Mom, I said, and I meant it. The rise. By spring, Vanessa was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Greg took a plea deal and served time under house arrest. Meanwhile, I rebuilt myself from the ashes. I started freelancing again, small bookkeeping jobs at first, then larger consulting work. My old boss, Melissa, even reached out, offering a contract position. Everything you said checked out, she admitted. You were the victim here. We should have listened. I took the job, not because I needed validation, but because I wanted to prove that I could rise again on my own terms. Months later, I moved into a new apartment overlooking the river. Small, bright, peaceful. Every night, I'd sit on the balcony with a cup of tea and watch the city lights reflect on the water. Sometimes I thought about Vanessa, about how easily love had turned into rivalry and how quickly kindness could be mistaken for weakness. But then I'd smile. because I knew who I was now. Not the sister who saved everyone else, but the woman who finally saved herself. Epilogue. 6 months later, I received a letter. It was from prison. Lena, I know you hate me. Maybe you should. I've had a lot of time to think. What I did was unforgivable, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But please, take care of Hannah. She asks about you all the time. She misses you. Vanessa. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger, just peace. That weekend, I visited Hannah's school. When she saw me standing by the gate, her eyes lit up like the sun. "Aunt Lena!" she shouted, running into my arms. And in that moment, I knew my story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebirth. Because sometimes, losing everything is exactly what it takes to find out who you really are.